thank you all so much for coming tonight. We are so excited to have Scott Presler with us. And we're ready to get started. And first thing I'm going to do is, representing us for the city is the Mayor Pro Tem, Frida Powell.
Good evening. So let's start off with a prayer. Let us pray, bow our heads. Our most gracious and heavenly Father, we are thankful you are always there for us. Bless each one here and their loved ones. Give us the strength to go through life every day to be more like you. You are a role model in life as we try to emulate your teachings. Thank you for your incredible sacrifice so that we might have freedom in life. Forgive us for when we don't thank you enough for who you are, for all that you do, for all that you've given. We love you and we need you this day and every day. We give you praise and thanks, for you alone are worthy. Father, I ask you to protect our nation and the men and women of the United States military who protect the nation's freedom every day. Be a guiding star in our lives and bless and watch over everyone here and protect them as they leave here later this evening. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. If you'll please stand with me, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. So, wow, what an exciting evening we have. And to me, this feels so much like familiar territory. It seems like I've been here once before. So I want to say welcome to the High Plains Republican Women's Monthly Meeting. And I would like to take just a moment to recognize and honor again our men and women of the United States military who protect our nation's freedom every day, as freedom is not free. Please stand if you have served in the military, or even if you have someone that's serving, and just let us say thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your service. At this time, I want to recognize some of the Republican women, if they don't mind standing, and you guys just give them a hand clap because they do so much. And that is President Jana May, and her executive committee is Connie Morgan. I think I saw Connie somewhere. She's at the back. Darla Herring, Cindy Price, Angie Parker, Debbie Turley, Diane Heffley, Pat Kunkel, Jamie Morgan, and Frances Dorsey. So say welcome to the members, friends, and guests. And now I think we have a few special people in the audience with us tonight that I would also like to take a moment to recognize. And I know that we have Dan Rogers, who is the Potter County GOP chair. Is Dan here? Yeah, there's Dan right there. He's back there. And then Tim Revelle, who is the Randall County GOP chair. Where's Tim? Tim is over there. Shannon Lackey, and she's the Randall County Elections Administrator. Yes, she's back in the back. There she is. Okay, and then let's give a great big welcome to Peggy Thomas, who is newly elected to the Amarillo College Board of Regents. And I know she's here, so if you please They are already doing great things, and we know that there's going to be some more great things coming from them. Do we have any other elected officials in the audience? Just want to make sure that we recognize everyone that is here tonight. Okay. Well, as I'm sorry.
I'm Ann Franklin from Gray County Republican Party.
Thank you so much, Ann. It's a pleasure to have you here in our city. Thank you. So as President Janice said, my name is Frida Powell, and I'm serving as Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Amarillo. It is my privilege and honor, and on behalf of the High Plains Republican Women, to welcome you. Mayor Nelson extends a warm welcome, as she could not be with us this evening as she has a family engagement. They are actually on vacation, so probably a well-deserved vacation, I might say. Thank you to the High Plains Republican Women for building leaders, energizing communities, keeping America strong, empowering women from all backgrounds in the political process, and providing a forum for women to serve as leaders in the political, government, and civic arenas. We appreciate all that you do. And at this time, I would like to extend a special welcome to our special guest speaker this evening, and that is Mr. Scott Presler, who is a dog walker turned Republican activist and was on a mission to re-elect President Donald Trump in 2020. So he's going to be your guest speaker this evening. And before I hand the microphone back over to our host, President Jana May, who will continue to outline this evening's events for you, I want to say once more on behalf of this organization, welcome, and it's such a pleasure to see each one of you all here this evening. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
On behalf of all of our members, High Plains Republican Women welcomes you to our Scott Presler Live event. We are so excited to spend the evening with like-minded Americans who believe in America first. I'm Jana May, President of High Plains Republican Women, where our mission is to support and promote Republican values. High Plains Republican Women is an affiliate of Texas Federation of Republican Women. Together, TFRW and HPRW provide an avenue for women to influence policy, develop candidates, and elect the leaders of Texas. We are a multi-generational, multicultural organization that provides structure and support for individuals in our communities to learn, engage, and flourish as activists in local, state, and national government. Meetings are held on the first Tuesday of each month, and we have various events throughout the year. If you would like to join us as we strive to inspire, unite, and achieve, we would love to have you. Membership forms are in the foyer. Dues are $30 per year for members and $20 per year for associate members, aka men. We also have some great signs for your garden, lapel pins, and more. Thank you for coming tonight and enjoy the event. Again, thank you so much, and thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to High Plains Republican Women for all the hard work that you've put in to make this evening possible. I also want to say a thank you to, is Scott Stein here? No? Okay, well, Scott works with me, and he put this together and made the commercial that we ran for Scott on television, so I want to thank him. I also want to thank the Lubbock Area Republican Women for coming. Thank you so much. Please stand. You do, yeah. And I want to thank the Top of Texas Republican Women from Pampa. Please stand. We really appreciate your help with your sister clubs. I'm just going to get right to introducing our speaker. Scott Ryan Presler grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, and Northern Virginia. He graduated from George Mason University with honors in criminal justice. He now travels the country meeting with conservative groups in countless communities, traveling to 26 states this year. We are honored to have him with us tonight. Please give a Texas-sized welcome to Scott Presler.
Well, hello, Amarillo! No, that was like Marco Rubio, low energy. Come on. Hello, Amarillo! Much better. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Presler. I am the son of a retired Navy captain. I am that long-haired Eagle Scout. And this year at CPAC, I was awarded the Ronald Reagan Award for Freedom. But you don't really know my story. How did I get started on this journey? Well, I did graduate from George Mason with a 3.63, beauty and brains. I'm joking. I'm kidding. I couldn't find a job, so I started walking fur babies for a living. Dog walking. There's no shame in a hard day's work and an honest day's labor. I went on to work at an elementary school. During this time, President Obama was reelected. The night that he was reelected, I created my Twitter account. You see, I wasn't mad at President Obama. I was mad at me. Where was I knocking on doors? Where was I registering voters? Where was I getting out the vote? And the answer was, I hadn't been an active participant in our constitutional republic. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna start volunteering. And I did in 2013, and I fell in love with it because I met wonderful people like you, and I felt like I was making a difference. The reason why I'm a Virginian that wears cowboy boots is because in 2014, I got my first ever political job and helping to elect Governor Greg Abbott in Galveston, Texas. Then I spent 2 years of my life working to defeat the Hillary Clinton. I'm very proud of that accomplishment. And I spent the last 4 years of my life traveling the country, registering thousands of new voters, training tens of thousands of volunteers, and cleaning up our cities. You see, President Obama inspired me to get started, and President Trump inspired me to clean up our cities. He brought national attention to the city of Baltimore, and I was disappointed because I saw that everybody was quick to judge, quick to blame, quick to scapegoat. But nobody was doing anything. Do something. So I tweeted out to my followers and I said, okay, I'm going to Baltimore. And the tweet went viral and everybody wanted to help. And then I was like, uh-oh, because I had to fulfill a commitment. So within 6 days, we organized to clean up on a Monday, a work day. And with 200 volunteers, we picked up 12 tons of trash in 12 hours and 1 day. So I went home to my mom, and I was like, Ma, I'm really good at picking up trash. It was at that moment her heart swelled with pride. Because her baby boy, that dog walker, well, he had turned into a trash collector. And she always told me growing up, study hard and get good grades, you won't be the trash man. Sorry, Mom. And the reason why I share this story with you is I want you guys to realize I'm an average, ordinary American citizen, but in a society that tells you to say, who will, I dared to say, I will. And I hope that after this event today, that each of you will be encouraged to make your motto in life, that you will say, I will. Now, who here has ever thought about running for office? Don't be shy. Raise your hand. Yeah? A few of you. That's great. That's excellent. This is for you. And even for those that haven't thought about running for office, this is going to be very useful information for making sure that we have a decisive, overwhelming conservative victory in 2022! Next slide. So in order to move forward, we need to revisit 2016 for a second. So the Democrats, they lost 2016, and what did they blame it on? Russian collusion, Russian interference. They couldn't have possibly lost the election democratically, right? And then, of course, in 2020, there were clearly shenanigans that went on. But here's the difference. How did the Democrats respond to their loss versus how are we going to respond to the shenanigans of 2020? Next slide. Have you guys heard of ballot harvesting? Do you know what that is? The Democrats changed the law, but I want you guys to understand. They did it legally. They did it democratically. They did it by the state legislature. It's completely legal. And what's the fruit of their labor? After they changed the law legally, every single congressional district in Orange County went from red to blue, and they took the House and impeached the president. So, what is the pathway forward for Republicans? Next slide. If you look, so you see those 23 states in red? Those are what you call trifecta state governments. What's a trifecta? It means we control the governorship, we control the state house, we control the state senate. Texas is a trifecta state governorship. There's no reason why we can't pass no vaccine passports, no mask mandates, Second Amendment sanctuary city, fund our police, protect women's sports. There's no reason why Texas can't lead the nation as a trifecta state government. And I'm glad that the governor is going to call for a special session because Democrats, we are going to get our election integrity whether you like it or not. And look at these important states: New Hampshire, Ohio, Iowa, Arizona, Florida, those are Georgia. Those are all trifectas that we need to be contacting our legislators, asking for all of those policies because they work for us, not the other way around, right? And if they are doing their job, then we are going to primary, repeal, and replace their behinds. Next slide. Now, in addition to your state, I will be going to Arlington, I'm going to Houston, I'm going to Katy. I'm traveling all over the state of Texas to help make sure that we are taking over our school boards, but I'm also concerned with creating new trifecta state governments. My goal is in preparation of winning the 2024 election that we need to also win the governorships of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. 3 states where the governors, Democrats, shut down our businesses, shut down our churches, shut down our schools. Meanwhile, the border is left wide open. That's Democrat policies for you. Next slide. I want you guys to repeat after me. OpenStates.org. 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 Okay, so this is a great website because let's say that you want to contact your legislators, but you don't even know who your legislators are. You can type in your information and find out who your state senator is, who your state representative is. And let's say that you're a little intimidated. You've never made a phone call before. What the heck do you say? Here's how easy it is. My name is Scott. I'm a constituent of yours. What are you doing to sponsor or co-sponsor election integrity legislation? Boom. And if they say to you, what is election integrity legislation? Ban electronic voting, paper ballots for a paper trail, and punctually remove voters from the voter rolls when they unfortunately pass away or move to another county or a state. I think that's all pretty reasonable, don't you? And if they aren't passing this legislation, again, both D and R, then we need to replace them with somebody who will. And you can use this question for anything. What are you doing to sponsor or co-sponsor funding our police? What are you doing to sponsor or co-sponsor opening our schools, opening our businesses? This question is uniform for everything. Next slide. Who's this woman? What's she looking at? Fire and brimstone. I mean, gosh, it's been 100 days and our country's falling apart. But I want you guys to understand the important political leverage that you have. These 7 Democrats are what I call squishy Democrats. What is a squishy Democrat? It means that they are an elected official statewide in a state that is either purple or red. And you have people like Joe Manchin, West Virginia, Mark Tester in Montana, Kristen Sinema in Arizona, Mark Kelly in Arizona, Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, Warnock in Georgia, and last Brown in Ohio. You have Mark Kelly, Maggie Hassan, and Warnock. All 3 of those are up in 2022. That means they are vulnerable, squishy Democrats who want to get re-elected. So, just because you're a Texan doesn't mean you can't call these people. In fact, you should be calling them and put pressure on them. Because right now, guys, with a 50-50 Senate government, the Democrats, if they caucus together, they could push for DC becoming the 51st state. They could push for ending the filibuster protection. They could push for giving 11 million illegal immigrants citizenship. So Joe Manchin and all these Democrats need to be reminded that they are vulnerable and that we will be having Texans donate and work against them if they don't vote for us, the people. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Excellent. Next slide. How does the bill become a law? Do you guys know what a subcommittee is? Everyone say subcommittee. 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 A subcommittee is a place where bills go to die. So basically what that means is you think that a bill goes to the House or Senate, right? No. First, it has to be assigned to a subcommittee. So if you guys really want to empower yourselves, you need to call the legislators on the subcommittee in the State House and the State Senate first. And you tell them, I want you to either A, affirm that this goes out of subcommittee to be voted on, or B, nay, that it is not coming out of subcommittee. And so, once the State House and the State Senate both have concurrent legislation, then you lobby the governor, Greg Abbott, to sign the bill into law. Next slide. So I've made this really easy. I just went to Arizona. I'll be there this weekend. And here's an example of a subcommittee in the State Senate. You see how of 8 people, 5 of those have an R next to their name? That means that if you guys do your job effectively and efficiently, we'll get those 5 to vote however we want, and we can either confirm or deny bills coming out of subcommittee. But it's gonna take y'all. You need to call them. You need to email them. If you call, you may get a staffer. But if you email in addition, the legislators do often read their emails. So I want you to take the time to both call and email. And how do you do that? What's that website I taught you? Okay, this quadrant good. This one, something happened over here. So you guys, I'm gonna be looking at you to do better work. You guys are the stars. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, this is a great website too. Everyone say legiscan.com. Legiscan.com. Okay, so this is really cool because this actually includes all 50 states. Every piece of legislation that's being introduced in the State House and the State Senate in all 50 states is on this website. And it's for everything. Whether your issue is criminal justice reform or no vaccine passports or whatever it is, property taxes, every single piece of legislation being introduced at this moment in time is on this website. So if you have girlfriends in Tennessee or California, bless their hearts. New York, double bless them, and sign of the cross on that one. Do you guys know what that means? Yeah. Bless your heart? Yes. Well, I didn't know what that meant when I first moved to Texas. And it was the month of May that it really started heating up. I mean, it was getting hot. And I went around to everyone and I was like, guys, I'm sweltering. And they all kind of looked at me, they cocked their head and they said, bless your heart. I called my mom and dad, I said, Ma, I love Texas. I said, everyone's so nice. They're all blessing my heart. Come to find out, bless her heart is a real nice southern way of saying, you're dumb as hell. But you're kind of cute. So I learned from being a Virginianer, you guys taught me, bless your heart, but yes, legiscan.com is going to be a powerful tool to make sure that you actually know what legislation is being done under our nose. Keep it small, keep it all is the motto of our government. They don't want you to know what they're doing. This empowers you. Next slide. So my goal today is I want to kind of impress upon you the importance of state and local elections. Yes, Congress is important. Yes, we need to take back the House. But imagine this. To run for Congress, you're going to need $5 million at minimum to win a seat. But what if we, being forward thinkers, looking 40 years into the future, went, what if I spent $5 million on 500 city council races, 500 school board races? Then we could take over our schools, we could end critical race theory, we could protect our students, open our schools, give parents choice, and harness power at the local level. You see, the Democrats with COVID, they were able to shut us down. Why? Because they controlled the mayorships, they controlled the city councils, they controlled the sheriffs. If we start focusing on state and local, as opposed to just presidential and federal level, they will never be able to shut us down again. Next slide. So if you're running for office, you gotta share your story. How did these two old white men, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, inspire all these young people to get excited about politics? They were authentic. They were themselves. They stayed true to their convictions. And so what do people know about me? Well, there's my mom and dad. They've been married for 38 years. They share true love. There's me with some fur babies because I was a dog walker. There's me in Baltimore, an act of love that forever changed my life. And there's me at the White House with Judge Jeanine Pirro. I know. I got some pictures with her. It was real bad lighting. She deleted the photos off of my phone. She was like, these are terrible, delete, delete. Well, luckily, we took new ones together. So if I ever ran for office, my brand, my story would be from the doghouse to the White House. Next slide. So why are you running? That's going to be the inevitable question. They're going to ask you, why the heck are you running? Are you a ma? Are you a veteran? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a doctor? And you see your who is going to build into your why. You're a ma that cares about your babies. You're an entrepreneur that cares about businesses staying open so employees can get a paycheck. And your who builds into your why, which builds into your policy. You're a ma that cares about the babies, and so therefore, you want educational reform. You're a veteran that cares about businesses, so therefore, you want to make sure no vaccine passports, no mask mandates. You see how it has synergy, how it's cyclical. And now here are some representatives of the Republican Party. Who's the first gentleman in the top left? Rand Paul. What do we know about Rand Paul? Hero, optometrist, doctor. In his spare time, he does pro bono work to make sure that children have better vision. And who's the second woman in the picture? Young Kim, congressional candidate that flipped a seat in Orange County from blue to red, one of the first ever Korean American Republican congresswomen. Who's the third guy, that football star? Burgess Owens, Utah. And last picture, who's that gentleman? Looks so much better with the beard. I'm so glad he grew that out, right, ladies? Before I was like, no. What do we know about him? Conservative, constitutionalist, lawyer. And we know all of this because of branding. Simply by looking at their picture, we know their story. That's the power of PR, the power of branding. Next story. Who's the stash? What's his name? What do we know about Mike Lindell? What do we know about him? My pillow! And some people say to me, they go, Scott, I can't run for office. I have too many skeletons in my closet. Look at the gosh darn Democrats. I mean, gosh, look at Hill. So remember that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Mike Lindell, for example, is a former crack cocaine addict, but you know what he is? He's the American dream. He's a success story. He's a man that built a multi-million-dollar business that during the COVID pandemic turned his facilities to create masks to help people. He's the American dream. And who's the young lady on the right? AOC, but you know what? I give credit where credit is due, because this young lady, she went from bartender to hustling and knocking on doors for 2 years straight to become a congresswoman in the United States government. And if we are going to be the party of the working class, then that means that we need to represent all of the working class, including former bartenders, former dog walkers. And I respect, even though I disagree with them ideologically, the hustle of people like Stacey Abrams, because right now they are running circles around us, the Republicans, and we need to be as fierce and ferocious as they are. Next slide. So again, I want to beat this into your head. Please, if you've never run for Congress, start local. If you're not able to raise $5 million, start local. Mayor, state reps, school board, city council, state senate. Next slide. What's the first website I taught you? What's the second website? Okay. Ooh, the first quadrant. At first you were the stars. It flipped. Now these people are better. Okay, everybody repeat ballotpedia.org. Ballotpedia.org. Okay, so this is important news. So in Texas, your state, Philemon Vela, who's been in Congress for quite some time in the RGV, Democrat, he announced that he's retiring. That's creating an open seat. And you have this Hispanic community that is actually flipping Republican. And we have several congressional seats down there in the RGV that are going more and more to the right. That's why I think he's retiring. And so when I found out about this, I wanted to know, is his district flippable? Is this district winnable? And I'm just throwing out a number because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But I typed into the internet, for example, TX34CD Ballotpedia. What does that mean? Texas 34 Congressional District Ballotpedia. Boom. Immediately the website came up. It tells you the median income. It tells you the population. It tells you how many voters there are. It tells you how much Democratic or Republican it is. It tells you what the incumbent earned in the last election, what they spent. This is a very powerful website, and you can also use this for the Texas State Senate, for the Texas State House. So if you're considering running against somebody, primarying them, you want to use Ballotpedia to make sure first that it is winnable. Are you going to be able to get the funds that were raised in the last election in order to be competitive? Next slide. Expenditures. So if you're running for office, you have 5 major expenditures. Next slide. Starting with campaign manager. What does the campaign manager do? Well, they're the scheduler. They make sure that you got all your gigs on TV, that you're doing all of your house meetings, your meet and greets. This is honestly one of the most important roles, making sure that you are meeting every single one of your scheduling, because if you don't, the voter will remember that you didn't show up. Also, press releases. I recently headed to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Does anybody know why? I'm helping to primary Liz Cheney. That's right, baby. That's right. And so I wrote a press release. I don't know what I was drinking that morning, but listen to this. Conservative activist heads to Wyoming to primary disgraced warmonger representative. Again, I don't know what I was drinking. And even I took it a step further and I wrote in the press release, I'm a Virginian who's traveling to Wyoming to send the warmonger representative back to Virginia. She'll fit in right at home with her DC elitist swamp dwellers. It's not good. Usually I'm so nice. I don't know what happened. But the media did reach out to me, and they drove 3 hours from Casper to come to my event because I had the foresight to send out a press release of what my intentions were, reaching out to the constituents. Then you also have to stay on message. Don't have 20 policy positions, have 3. Open our schools, open our businesses, cut taxes. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And last, public relations. These are for all your gigs. So like, for example, you'll go on One America News Network, or you'll go on Fox News, or you'll go on Newsmax, or you'll go on Breitbart. I'm sorry, I had a little coffee in my throat. I wasn't being biased towards any news organizations. That would be rude of me. Next slide. Treasurer, this is a must. If you're running a campaign, must have a treasurer. And so, for example, let's say that you got girlfriends in Oklahoma, or you got girlfriends in Tennessee. All you gotta do is type into the internet, Texas, campaign finance disclosure forms. Tennessee, campaign finance disclosure forms. Oklahoma, you get the drift. There's 50 states, 50 different finance disclosure forms. Now, every contribution must be accounted for, including in-kind donations. An in-kind donation is something like office space that is lent to you for free that has a monetary value associated with that. Now, people have been indicted for receiving gifts as campaign contributions that they did not report. Don't give the Democrats ammunition against you. Report every contribution. Report every expenditure. Next slide. Social media. Who's been banned from Twitter? Raise your hand. Yeah? Have you got banned, Miss Little? I'm so sorry. My mom got suspended from Twitter. I know there's a child in the room, but she called Alyssa Milano a skank. I said, Mom, stop it! I said, people know I'm your son, just stop! I said, at least change the A into a U and call her a skunk. So yes, I'm the proud son of a mom who got suspended for saying that about Alyssa Milano. Anyway, I have good news. If you got banned from Twitter, we actually have alternatives. Gab, Parler, Telegram. And if you get banned from Twitter, you're probably going to get banned from Facebook and Instagram because they talk to each other. And then WhatsApp is also owned by Facebook and Instagram. So you want to make sure that you have an all-of-the-above approach to social media. So that way if you get banned from something, you still are going to be able to reach your constituents on other platforms. And you must create a website, scottpresler.org. Create a website so when you do all your gigs on TV and your PR, you can direct people because data wins elections. You want first name, last name, email address, phone number, whatever you can get from people. That's how President Obama won. He won from data. Next slide. Door knocking. You will not win elections if you do not door knock. And we will not have our conservative victory in 2022 unless we start knocking doors and pounding the pavement. Now, how do you knock on doors? Am I going to knock on every door in the neighborhood, guys?
Yes.
Am I? No. I'm going to knock strategically because you guys are what I would call hard Republicans. You don't necessarily need a knock because I know you're going to vote. You're going to vote in every city council election, every school board election, right? We need to use data to knock on soft Republican doors. Independent doors, soft Democrat doors, and then hard Democrats, I just call them communists. So we'll sprinkle in a few, see if we can win them over. But yeah, Marxists, all that. So how does it work? So you have voter gravity, you have Advantage Mobile, Campaign Sidekick. Advantage Mobile was used by the Trump campaign in 2016. Campaign Sidekick was used by the Trump campaign in 2020. And I believe the state Republican Party of Texas, I think they're still using Advantage Mobile, correct me if I'm wrong? Yes. They are? Excellent. So what I want you guys to do is become a Republican Party member and find out if there is a vacant precinct for the neighborhood that you live in. And if there is, I want you to sign up to become a precinct chair. And you will get a login, you will get data for your neighborhood for Advantage Mobile, and you will be able to create this database and know who your neighborhood is. Now, how do they get this data? It's based on voter record, and it's also based on consumer data. What is consumer data? Well, if you buy a whole bunch of Bibles and ammo, and you have a subscription to Country Life magazine, you're a Republican. That's a Republican. So, they use that consumer data, and then people like me use that in order to make sure that I'm targeting doors strategically to get out the vote. And there, of course, is a really cute picture of me, and you know it's me because I got my cowboy boots and I got my long hair. Next photo. Your biggest expenditure of your campaign is not consultants. If you are spending more money on consultants than mailers, you fire they behind immediately. Your biggest, I'm serious, consultants, they are bloodsuckers, they are ticks, they are lawyers. I'm sorry if we have any lawyers in the room today, but they are out for your money. And we have a problem as a party because the consultants aren't in the business of winning and losing elections. They are in the business of packing their pockets full of your cash. So, your biggest expenditure is a mailer. Now, can anyone tell me what is the difference between a mailer and what I'm holding up in the picture? And what's the difference?
Postage versus walk.
Precisely. So it is illegal for me to put a door hanger in or on a mailbox. You cannot do that. But you can, according to your First Amendment right, which is not solicitation, by the way, and if any Democrats tell you it is solicitation, then ask them to get a uniformed police officer to tell you otherwise. They won't do it, by the way. And so, the door hanger you can put on without postage, but if you want to go in a mailbox, you must pay for it through USPS. And there's a really cute picture of me too with the door hangers. Next photo. How to raise money. Do you guys get those terrible text messages where they go, Scott, this is Tim Scott here. We're 1 seat away from taking the Senate. Please donate. Please support me. Number one, I don't know where that money's going. Who's that going to? Is it the NRCC? Is that the GOP? I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be funding Ron McDaniel. I'm going to be funding the candidates directly themselves. So think of yourself as kind of like a focus group. What would make you open your pockets? Would it be a text message? I don't know. Would it be a personal phone call from the candidate himself or herself? Would it be Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's raised millions of dollars from harnessing the power of social media? So if you're running a campaign, ask yourself what would work on you. And remember that 30% of your time as a candidate, 30% is fundraising. So you need to spend time when you're not being a business owner or a mom or a dad or knocking on doors. You got to be on the phone call. You got to always be asking for money. Someone to say, Jana, can I have $500? No, Scott. Jana, can I have $350? No, Scott. Jana, $150? No, Scott. Jana, $99.99. Do you want somebody, a politician, that's just going to blow over when they hear no the first time? No! You want a hustler. You want a fighter. You want somebody that's going to fight for you every single day. And so you want to do the same thing when asking for money, even if it's $5, $1. But in order to be successful, you're going to have to raise that money. Now, remember when I said that we don't necessarily want to knock on hard Republican doors to get out the vote? Well, a strategy to get funders, to get volunteers, to get people to help your campaign is if I were running for office, I would actually knock on the hard Republican doors first. How many of you received a knock on your door for Republican candidates in the 2020 election? Raise your hand. Okay, so 4 people out of this group here received a knock on their door. Well, that tells me that you are an untapped resource. And it tells me that there are a lot of people that we could have within the Randall and Potter County GOPs that we're missing out on because we're not doing our due diligence in reaching out to those hard Republicans, those untapped resources. So I'm going to encourage that when you become your precinct chair, or if you join your local Republican Party, ask for a list of hard Republicans that you can start reaching out to so we can grow going into the 2022 election. Next slide. So I've written about 3,000 handwritten letters in cursive, which is going to be like hieroglyphics in a few years. I mean, they're going to look at that and be like, what the heck is this? So if you're knocking on a door and a little snowball comes over to you, a little fur baby, then what you're going to do is you're going to write a note in your phone. And you're going to write a handwritten letter within 3 days, and you're going to deliver the letter to the voter and say, "Dear voter, it was so nice meeting you, and little snowball. I just again wanted to ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, and I hope to earn your vote." They won't forget that you took the time to remember. That personal touch can help flip Democrat votes to Republican by simply showing that you care. Next slide. Volunteer recruitment. Who are the people that got banned again? Miss Little. Who else got banned from Twitter? And yes. Okay, good. Mr. Barnett?
Barrett. Yeah.
Barrett. Well, you took off your hat. You confused me.
Sorry.
So this is for you. Now, guys, even if you don't like Twitter, even if you don't have a Twitter, here's how powerful it is. Twitter is kind of like the internet. It's a search engine where data in, data out. We're in Amarillo, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to type into the search Twitter button, Amarillo Trump. Anyone in the history of Twitter that has ever tweeted those two words together is going to pop up. And then you have the opportunity to click on their profile. Now, it doesn't mean it's good or bad. So they could be hating on Trump, but that's your opportunity to click on their profile. Are they liberal? Are they conservative? And if they're conservative, say, "Hey, I'm a part of the Randall County GOP. We're focusing right now on 2022. We're getting out the vote. We're registering voters. We're on fire. Will you join us at our next meeting Tuesday at 6:30 at the church?" So you never have to make a cold call, and you don't even have to join Twitter if you don't want to. That's how powerful this tool is. Next slide. Also, if you're a penny pincher and you want to make sure that your campaign is staying organized, because I believe failing to prepare is preparing to fail, then you have a couple different options of still staying organized while being free. Freeconferencecall.com is a great way that you can have all of the participants on your campaign and still have privacy, because only people that have the phone number and have the private number associated with that phone number can actually join the call. And what it does is it emails you afterwards, and it tells you how many participants were on, it tells you how long they stayed, it tells you their phone numbers. It's very powerful. Zoom, also, you can use for up to 100 participants for up to 40 minutes for face-to-face interaction. And I also really like Gmail. I know, don't judge me. And Gmail has, do you guys know what Excel is? Word, PowerPoint, right? Well, this document right here is actually called a Google Doc. This is a live document. So if I were to edit this in front of you, it would edit in real time globally. I can send this as a link where people don't even have to download it. All they have to do is click on it, and they have access to this information, which I will be making available to Jana, so you can pass on to all of your members. Next slide. So when I cleaned up Baltimore, the Baltimore Sun criticized me. They questioned my motives for why a Virginian would go into Baltimore to clean up trash. How rude. And so I wrote a letter to the editor afterwards, and I basically said to them, we'll be back. And in fact, why don't you join us in an act of love and put on your work boots and put on your gloves and help us restore Baltimore. Spoiler alert, they didn't help us. But what I did is I created a searchable way to find me on the internet from having a letter to the editor published through the Baltimore Sun. So basically what you're doing is you're making a statement, you're providing 3 supporting facts, and you're doing it in 200 words or fewer. My name is Scott Presler. I'm running for school board. I'm going to open our schools. I'm going to give parents choice, and I'm going to give the opportunity, whether they want to have hybrid, in-person, or at-home learning, that parents, not government, are going to make the best decisions for their families. Vote for me on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. Boom. You got a letter to the editor, and you have a way that people can search for you that is free PR, free advertising. Next slide. So this is what I believe the Republican Party, actually politics, needs. We need more compassion. We need to show more kindness and love. And you see these kids, the way they're looking at me, they told me after the cleanup in Baltimore, they said, Mr. Scott, we had so much fun picking up trash. And I figure if I can get kids in one of the most dangerous streets of America to love picking up trash, that we could transform our country for the better. And so think about this. In Baltimore, they get so hot at the beginning of the year because they don't have working air conditioning units, so they actually have to cancel class. I know. And so think about this. What if you're a school board candidate? You're running for school board in Baltimore. You could get a donation drive of money to then buy air conditioning units that you can donate to the schools to make sure that our kids can have the best and brightest education and actually receive a good learning experience. So think of ways that we can show through our actions the kindness and compassion of the Republican Party, where we aren't just pointing out a problem, but we are actually combating it by finding a solution, changing those hearts and minds. Next slide. Campaign rules. Be yourself. Guys, if I cut my hair and if I didn't wear cowboy boots, you would think that a body snatcher done got me. You go, what happened to him? So that doesn't mean don't be polished. That doesn't mean don't be prepared. That doesn't mean don't bathe. But be yourself. Frederica Wilson, she's actually genius. She's the only congresswoman, Democrat, but she wears a cowgirl hat with matching cowgirl boots, and she's the only congresswoman that does it. And it's actually brilliant PR, because whenever you see cowgirl hat, you think Frederica Wilson. She's the only one. So be yourself, and beware of consultants. Again, if a consultant told me, Scott, you're gonna win as a Republican mayor in Austin, Texas. Baloney, baloney. But if they told me, Scott, you know what? You can run for city council as a conservative in Austin. And if you knock on these doors these many times, and if you strategically send out these mailers to these neighborhoods, you may have a shot at winning. That's a consultant I want to talk to, not the consultant that's going to tell me I'm going to win just so I can earn money for that consultant. Does that make sense? Yeah. What's the first website I taught you? Second website. Third website. I'm impressed. Okay, you guys are good. We got smart ones. Pictures or it didn't happen, for the love of all, please, if there's a baby, you kiss that baby and take a picture. And if there's a Labradoodle, you take a picture with that dog and you pet it. That is the best way to earn votes. People love babies, they love dogs. Oh my gosh, take a little puppy with you. People will come from miles just to pet the dog. And that's an opportunity to earn votes. Door knocking wins elections. And last, remember that social media following doesn't equal votes. I think it's great, Scott, that you have 1 million followers on Twitter. But how many of those 1 million followers can vote for you, actually live within your district? Are they all in Florida while you're running in Texas? So don't be blinded by the shiny bells and whistles and the people who have a big following. Be impressed by the people that are doing house meetings, that are shaking hands, that are knocking on doors, that are registering voters, that are doing events within the district they're running in. Those are the people that we want to elect into office. Next slide. So notable quotes. I interviewed people who have run for office successfully, and I asked them, what's advice that you would give to someone who's never run before? And they said, be you. Don't back down. Attend every possible event. Don't be shy to stand by your convictions. This one gentleman in New Hampshire is one of the least religious states in the entire country, and he ran as an unabashed conservative Christian, and he won his election overwhelmingly because he stayed true to who he was, because he didn't pretend to be somebody else. And while we're switching to the next slide, I also met a gentleman in California who told me, I was in prison and now I'm a city councilman. And the last notable quote was, put your name on the ballot, fill out the paperwork, what do you have to lose? Because if we aren't running, who's going to be running? The Democrats. And we're no longer going to allow them to take over our school boards and city council races. Okay, so that was Serious Scott. That was giving you a 101 on how to run for office and kind of get out the vote. Now we're going to go into more fun, Scott. I promise it gets better. So this is voter registration harvesting. This is what the Democrats do that Republicans are finally getting better at. Next slide. Guys, I met Hillary. Look. When I went to the White House, oh my gosh, I went up to the Secret Service guys and I said, please, can I get my picture with Hill? They looked at me like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears or something like that, but I had to get my photo because I love triggering the lips. Next slide. So I come from Virginia. Don't judge me! Virginia was once a Republican state, now it's Democrat. Why? Why? Voter registration. Going into the 2008 elections, the Democrats registered 283,000 new voters, forever changing the demographics of Virginia. Next slide. And I want you to sear this into your vision. I want you to remember these numbers. In 2004, Bush won Virginia. That's great. 1.7 million votes. Kerry lost with 1.4. Guys, fast forward 4 years. In 4 years' time, President Obama has won Virginia with 1.9 million votes. What did we lose with John McCain? 1.7. Next slide. Fast forward 4 years, President Obama has again won Virginia with 1.9 million votes. What did Mitt Romney lose with? 1.7. Fast forward 4 years, Hillary Clinton has won Virginia with 1.9 million votes. What did Donald Trump lose with? Do you guys see a pattern? Do you see something wrong with that? That for 12 years, 12, we were stagnant. We plateaued. We did not grow while the Democrats registered 283,000 new voters, while the Democrats got out 500,000 new voters. Now, I have good news and bad news. 2020, we did bump up to 1.9 million votes for Donald Trump. That's great. Democrats went up to 2.4. We have to continually register voters and grow our party. You're wonderful people, but right now I'm preaching to the choir. We need to talk to people that don't agree with us, right? Next slide. And actually go until you see the really cute photos where there are 6 photos. Story time! Okay, so I spent a lot of busy time on street corners. My mom always gets on me. She goes, Scott, stop saying you're working the corner. Stop it. Trump will never hire you if he thinks you're working the corner. You know what I do? I go out there all alone on the busiest street corner in town, and my sign says there are 4 million Hispanic children living in poverty. Why do Democrats choose illegal immigrants first? There are 3.6 million black children living in poverty. Why do Democrats choose illegal immigrants first? And in this first photo that you see, I was downright accosted. This group came up to me and they said, what the heck are you doing? And I looked at them and I said, silence is compliance. And if you are not a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem. And I think it's wrong that we have homeless veterans sleeping on the streets. I think it's wrong that we have potholes we're not fixing. I think it's wrong that our education is worse than Japan. I'm out here because I give a darn about my community. Guys, we're taking a selfie. I was able to turn a hostile situation into a loving one because I was kind, I was compassionate, I was armed with knowledge, and yes, mother, I worked that corner. Next photo. You see that woman bent over in gray? She hasn't voted since 64. I said I wasn't born yet, dear. It's so nice to meet you. We got permission to set up a voter registration table. I always say that asking for permission is a lot like dating. The worst that they can say is no, right? Unless you're Joe Biden and you do it anyway. But there's no hair sniffing going on here. I really do think if I met Joe Biden, I think he would try to sniff my hair. I really do. So, you guys have a hot spot of businesses, of great locations. Ask for permission, even if they say no. Remember that public sidewalk is public property, and you have every right to set up a voter registration table on public sidewalk, and nobody can tell you otherwise. And if somebody tries to give you trouble, if it's a rent-a-cop, for example, be nothing but, honey, it's so nice to meet you, but I'm going to continue expressing my First Amendment right to free speech unless a uniformed police officer tells me otherwise. Have a great day. So that's going to be what you tell a rent-a-cop. Next photo. You see we're at the beach, and if you haven't gathered, I'm a little weird. I run with a sign on my back in my neighborhood when I go for runs that says Trump on it, because I believe if I'm going to advertise while I'm exercising, that's the way to go. I might as well do a two for one, kill two birds with one stone. So my entire community knows me, and we're in line, and that girl in front, her name is Kristen, we're in line at Starbucks. She turns to me and she goes, "You're that guy." The guy with the backpack. And I'm always sheepish because I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. And I was like, yeah, that's me. And she said, "I love you." What did I say to her?
I love you.
Wrong. I said, "Are you registered to vote at your current address?" Look, I want that vote. It's the most important thing. That's a Republican. But this one, and then I said to her, "I love you." But this woman, I've invited her into my home for game night. I've invited her into my home for movie night. I turned a stranger into a friend, into an activist for the Republican Party by being kind, compassionate, and yes, being that weird guy with the long flowing locks and the Trump backpack. Allison's at church, and some people say to me, "Scott, how dare you mix religion and politics?" It's about time that we do. You hear me loud and clear. If we up the Judeo-Christian vote, we will never lose another presidential election as long as we live. Millions of Christians stay home, and we cannot allow that to happen moving forward. And again, I'm so glad you're here. I really am. But I don't want you just to go home after this and be like, "I met Scott, and I saw his hair." No! No! I want you to do something. Call your rabbi. You call your priest. You call whoever you get your religious services from. And I want you to ask for permission to set up a nonpartisan, non-political voter registration table. You're not going there as Trump. You're not going there as the Republican Party. You simply want to make sure that our value voters are registered to vote so we can follow up with them and push them to the polls. The majority of people who attend religious services are going to vote our way, even if you sprinkle a few Democrats in there. Last photo. That's college. Are we going to allow Democrats going to be the only ones talking to students?
No!
Are we? No! Your motto is, "What would the Democrats do?" And I mean that. I really do. What would the Democrats do? Would the Democrats be at high schools?
Yes.
Would the Democrats be at colleges? Would the Democrats be at nursing homes? Would the Democrats be at graveyard? Was that wrong? Should I not have said that? Okay, guys, no cemeteries, no graveyards. We're Republicans, we don't do that. But in all seriousness, there are some people who, when door knocking, won't go into an apartment complex? Ask yourself, would the Democrats go into the apartment complex? Yes. So we need to. We need to be as fierce and ferocious as they are, because they're coming and they want to keep the House and they want to keep all of these investigations going. We take the House, it all ends, and we are in control. You have the power. Next slide. So where do you go? Do you guys have Chick-fil-A here? Oh my gosh, that's shooting fish in a barrel. These people are Christian conservatives, right? Just don't go on Sunday because nobody's there. Do you guys have a Home Depot here? Oh my gosh, who goes there? Construction workers, contractors, homeowners, builders. You can find a husband there. That's a 2-for-1 combo. Scott, what'd you do? I registered to vote and found a husband. So that's what you do. You can go to parks, soccer games, beaches. Your other motto, besides what would the Democrats do, is kind of like the Little Mermaid. You want to be where the people are. And I know that sounds really silly, but it's true. We have to constantly be in a growth stage of growing our party, bringing in new people. Gun shops, gun shows. Make a list of every single gun shop and gun show upcoming in the future, and I want you to contact them and say, hey, can I set up a nonpartisan, non-political voter registration table? These are all gun rights people. You don't have to go in there as Republican. They're going to vote Republican. But we have to make sure they are registered to vote at their current address. Next slide. Next slide. So what do you need? Clipboards, voter registration forms, pens. Now here in the great state of Texas, you also got something called a volunteer deputy voter registrar. Can everyone say VDVR? VDVR. Excellent. What's the first website I taught you? You will be tested. I will be following up. So in order in the great state of Texas for you to collect a form from somebody, you must become a volunteer deputy voter registrar. Now, Ms. Shannon Lackey, can you stand up and raise your hand so people can see you, please? If you would like to become a volunteer deputy voter registrar, if you have questions on becoming a VDVR, I want you to please see this lovely young lady and ask her some questions, and you have my permission. You may call her at 3 a.m. I'm kidding.
Too many people have my cell phone, doesn't it?
Thank you, Shannon. But I encourage every single one of you. Now guys, why do we want to collect the form as opposed to having them mail in the form themselves? Can anyone tell me why?
They don't have stamps.
They won't do it.
They don't have
Right.
stamps.
They may not have a stamp. They won't do it. It's too time consuming. They'll forget. It will get lost in their car, in their purse. We do it to ensure that they become a registered voter. And you know why else we do it? Data. We save first name, last name, email address, phone number. You can have them sign a petition, and that is how you're going to get their data to follow up with them. Because imagine if there's a new voter, but they've never voted before. Do they know that they need an ID? Do they know where their polling location is? Do they know when the polls open? Do they know when the polls close? Do they have a ride to the polls? Do they have friends? That is community organizing 101. It's not good enough to just register someone to vote. It's not good enough to just turn in the form. You must also follow up with these people. And imagine if every single one of us got 5 people and pushed them to the polls, we'd win. Now, you can bring tables and chairs with you, but look, if I stand in front of this, I'm inhibiting myself. I'm not allowing full trust and transparency with a voter. So I want you to come around a table. Don't look as bored as all heck twiddling your thumbs. Are you gonna go to the board table? No! Next slide. For this next part of the presentation, I need a volunteer. Who will help me? Yeah, who said that? Miss Little. I'm sorry, you'll be next time. Okay, Miss Little, can I get a round of applause for Miss Little? Round of applause! You're at Home Depot. You are, and you already have a man, so you're good. So you are Republican, but you're not registered to vote. And I know that sounds weird, but 120 million people didn't vote in 2016. 120 million people stayed home. But I see that as opportunity. We need to do a better job of articulating our message to inspire them. So, Republican, not registered. Okay, push around your card. Ma'am, how do you feel about... I sure am. Hi, how do you feel about securing the southern border so we can have safety and security?
Oh my goodness, they should have done that yesterday.
Oh, are you registered to vote at your current address?
Do I need to be?
Absolutely. Every time you move, every time you change your name, yes, you must register to vote at your current address.
How can I do that?
Well, actually, I've got forms with me, and I can register to vote right here, right now, in 2 minutes flat!
Let's do it.
Okay. Stay there. No, you're not done. Nice try. Nice try. Okay, so remember that 90% of communication is body language. We are talking to each other without knowing we are talking to each other, right? So when I found out she's a conservative, am I letting her get away? No. Am I letting her get away? No. I nicely, but aggressively, shoved that clipboard over to her, indicating with my body language, sign this, take this. Remember that people will take something from you just to get you to go away. That's our strategy. I mean, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so you did great, Miss Little. Now in the second part of the presentation, you're a dyed-in-the-wool Republican. You are registered. You never miss an election. You are fired up about 22. You're at Home Depot. You're wearing a Trump hat. You're wearing a Trump shirt. You got your nails did. TRUMP.
That's a great idea.
Your toes too. Okay?
That's a great idea.
Push around your card. Ma'am, how do you feel about supporting our men and women in blue that put their lives on the line for us?
Oh my goodness, let's just stop and pray right now.
Are you registered to vote at your current address?
I sure am.
Well, you know what? I'm here with the Potter and Randall County GOPs. We are not waiting for 2022. We're fired up. We're starting right here, right now. What do you volunteer with us?
Let's go right now. Here, I'll put this card over here and we'll just go.
Excellent. Stay there. Stay there. Miss Little, don't go anywhere. You're not done. So guys, when I found out she's registered to vote, am I letting her get away? No. Am I letting her get away? No. Networking. Pull out your business card. Invite her to your next meeting. That is how we grow. Now everyone, I want you to look at Miss Little. Look at her!
Hi.
Miss Little is an Elizabeth Warren loving, Bernie Sanders supporting.
Don't say Mitt Romney
Get a
or
room.
Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, it gets better. In her home, she has a shrine to Stacey Abrams. Shrine. And she's at Home Depot wearing a shirt that says, Stacey sent me. That's Miss Little. That's her. So I don't know that. So I need you to push around your cart for me.
Oh, I just popped my gun.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
What you want?
How do you feel if I said to you the motto, let's put the American citizens first?
Seriously?
Call me a racist.
Seriously, are you a racist or what?
Ma'am, thank you so much for your time. Bless your heart. I hope you have a wonderful day. May I get a round of applause for Miss Little? You're done. You did excellent. You were too good at being a Democrat. Spy. So guys, when she calls me a name, and clearly she doesn't want to put the American people first, am I going to get in a fight with her? No. Am I going to be confrontational? No! I'm here to win. This is a numbers game. This is math. It's who gets the most people out. I want as many new registered Republicans as possible. I want as many new volunteers for Randall County and Potter as humanly possible. Next slide. Now, did I ask Miss Little if she's a Republican? Did I ask Miss Little if she a Trumper? No. I asked her a qualifying question to determine political ideology, because I'm not talking politics, I'm talking policy. That is how we win. No vaccine passports, do you back the blue, secure the border, fund our police, protect women's sports. Nothing I just said was Republican or Democrat, but I talked about conservative policies. There's a difference. Now, next slide, I want you to look at the screen. Look at them! But these are my friends, don't you laugh. I'll hurt you. These two people reached out to me on Instagram and they said, Scott, I love the work that you do, and I'm voting to re-elect Donald J. Trump. These are two real-life conservative voters. And so we all have this moment where we have a moment of doubt. And if you are ever working the corner and you see a girl and she's got that short pixie haircut and it's green and blue and purple and she is tattooed from head to toe and she has more piercings than I have fingers or toes, give her the time of day. Ask her a question. You never know, she could be a Scott Presler in hiding, waiting to be the next great volunteer for the Republican Party. But you don't know unless you ask, right? And we, this new Republican Party, is a no judgment movement. And we're a movement based on love. And love is action. And love is truth. So let's show people with our actions the kind of compassionate party that we really are. Next slide. Picture guide. Who's in the top left-hand corner? What did the Democrats try to do? Rip them apart. And how dare the Democrats say keep families together? How dare Democrats say believe women? They didn't believe these three women. They left them in silence. They left them voiceless. And in the bottom left-hand corner, who do you see? President Trump with a double amputee, who can no longer feel touch with his hands. What does the president do?
Touches his face.
Touches his face so we can feel that kindness, that warmth, that compassion. And who's the picture in the middle? President Trump with an elderly grandmother whose grandbaby, a police officer, was shot and killed in New York City. And what is she doing? She's clutching onto our president. What is he doing? He's comforting her. Guys, we Republicans and Democrats, this isn't a dig. I'm not being disrespectful. We think differently. We are just wired differently. That's nothing wrong. But Democrats think with their hearts and we think with our heads. And so that means that if we're talking to a Democrat, we need to tailor our message, and we need to become storytellers, and we need to make them emote, make them feel, pull at the heartstrings. Because when Democrats see that video of two toddlers being thrown over the wall at the border, how does that not tear at your heart when they are abandoned as toddlers, when they are neglected, when they are left to fend for themselves? If you have a heart, that will make you feel. So become a master storyteller, and that is how we're going to bring Democrats over to our side. Next slide. So, I love registering voters. I love it, and not just to show off my hair because it looks really good in these pictures. But whenever I go anywhere, I always have voter registration forms with me because you never know. This woman on the left, a new citizen that just became a citizen here in America, and she goes, I need to register to vote. drove to McDonald's, registered her to vote right then and there. And what I do is I strategically always have bumper stickers with me, because what I'm doing is I'm showing that I'm not only registering Republican, but I'm also covering up their information, so I'm not doxing them, so I'm not showing who that person is. So it's all done very strategically. The gentleman on the right, he was 17 years old in Pennsylvania. I drove to McDonald's, immediately registered him to vote. Did you know, I believe in Texas, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 17 and 10 months that you can register to vote. And so that means that we need to be investing in our high school students. We need to be investing in the next generation. And I encourage every woman here, you hear me, I want you to join the League of Women Voters. They are super Democrat, they are super liberal, but guys, infiltrate. They get into our schools and they do voter registrations. Are we going to allow the Democrats to be the only ones registering voters in our schools? No. I want you to infiltrate the League of Women Voters. Look, if you have to wear a pink hat, do what you have to do. Pretend, wear like really thick Rachel Maddow glasses. Look like a liberal. Do what you have to do, but in all seriousness, the Democrats, they do that to us. They try to infiltrate our group, so I say we do it back to them. Next slide. So I'm a really nice guy, next slide, in that I've done this, next slide, for all 50 states, and I've shown you the states that do not require training and states that do. Notice that Texas is not in red, which means you have to do training, which is the VDVR, which Ms. Shannon Lackey will be able to direct your questions to. And so if you have girlfriends that you want to share this information with, I'm happy, again, to give you the presentation so we can be registering voters in all 50 states. And if you keep going slides, and I'll tell you to stop, please, but I even tell you how to do the training for every single state, and I make it super easy. So I want you to stop, go back, please, go back to me sitting on the computer, please. So if you are not able to do all the voter registration and not all the door knocking, you can still become an activist. There's something for you. I like to sit at Starbucks, and I sit there with my Trump computer, and I sit in the drive-through window. So everyone has to see me. And some people, they're all happy as can be. They're waving at me. Other people, they're telling me I'm number one, if you catch my drift. And so the people that are all happy, I literally run outside of Starbucks. I knock on their car window door, and what do I say?
Are you registered to vote?
That's your current address. And that too. And so, guys, reimagine getting out the vote. You can use a lefty Democrat establishment to elect conservative Republicans. And let's say you don't want to give your money to Starbucks. Go to Dunkin' Donuts. Go to Hobby Lobby. Sit there with a piece of Republican iconography, and you'll be shocked at the people that will come over. And some, they'll give you a side thumb. They'll be like, I really like your shirt. You know, the scared ones. But other people, they'll be right out about it, and they'll say, I'm a Republican too. I'm supporting our candidates. The network. Are you registered to vote at your current address? So again, it's as easy as sitting at your favorite coffee shop with a computer or a book or a shirt and just having people see you. Optics is reality. Next slide. So I already went over letters to the editor. Next slide. Who's this woman? It's not Donna Brazil. What's her name? Broward County. Broward County. Mr. Barrett, come on.
DeSantis
Yes.
dismissed her, didn't he?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Supervisor of Elections. Her name is Brenda Snipes. Doesn't she have a great Harry Potter Slytherin name? She'd be the villain. Brenda Snipes. So in 2018, it was a little election. It didn't affect, the future of our country whatsoever. And an Avis van delivered a ballot box after the election in Broward County, where Brenda Snipes is the supervisor, and it was because an investigative journalist snapped a photo that today we have Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Rick Scott. So if you see something wrong, if you see something, pull out your gosh dang phone, record it, send it to your friend Scott, and I'll send it everywhere. But in all seriousness, this is a little bit of real talk with Scott. This is tough love. I think in the 2020 election, I love fun. Who doesn't love fun? But I think we had a little too much fun. And I think in addition to boat parades, in addition to sign waving, every single one of us needs to take off work on election day, and we need to sign up for the training to become election judges and to become eyes and ears inside of our polling locations to make sure that if something is done shenanigans, then we can record it and report it. But it is worth taking off one day, and I believe that you get paid in the state of Texas to become an election judge. You can get paid, take off, and help secure America's future. So please, for 2022, I encourage every single one of you to become a poll worker, poll watcher, election judge. Make sure that we have fair and free elections. Next slide. So this is what the Democrats are doing in your state right now. It's called Postcards to Voters. And what they're doing is they got liberals in Oregon, in Washington, in New York, in California, in Connecticut, and they're writing handwritten get out the vote letters from their states into yours to flip you blue. And they're doing it right under your nose. And so I heard this was happening in 2018. I was like, gosh, where's the Republican Party? Do something. So I created Letters to Voters. And what we did is we strategically wrote handwritten letters into Missouri, Ohio, and West Virginia. And in part because of our efforts, we helped elect Josh Hawley to the United States Senate in Missouri. And an example letter that we used was, dear voter, please vote for Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley will stop big tech censorship. Josh Hawley will help us secure the border. Josh Hawley will keep our corporate tax low. Please vote for Josh Hawley on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. Notice, did I say Republican? Did I say politics? No, I talked about policy. And guys, why am I not writing to a hard Republican? I already have their vote. Why am I going to waste Post-its? Why am I going to waste a good hand writing that letter? No, this is about doing it strategically. And I'm sure that the chairman has data that we can get from the county for Randall, for Potter, where if you guys are not able to do the voter registration or the door knocking or whatever, that guys, we can have a letter writing party. Turn the letter writing party into a pizza party. Turn it into a wine party. Turn it into a shoot the whiskey party. But please, Miss Little, I want you to drink responsibly, because I can see it right now. Miss Little, she writing a letter. Dear voter, please vote for Now, this your husband. He heard you were going to Home Depot too often. Now this photo over here, this is my family, not by blood, but by choice. And I want you guys to look at each other. Look at each other! You guys are a family. Do you guys know why you're a family? Because you share the same values, principles, love of country. You bleed red, white, and blue. And so before you leave here today, please honor me by meeting 5 new people, and I want you to trade your number and get 5 new numbers today, please. Honor me by doing that, because you guys staying connected will be a stronger country, a stronger party, a stronger chance at winning in 2022. And see that woman on the left? Her name is Jocelyn. She's a ma. She said, Scott, I'm worried about my baby. That's why I'm volunteering with you. And then you have Eli, a Puerto Rican American. And then you see that floating head in the back? His name is Miles. I met Miles at Starbucks. I was wearing a Stop Hillary t-shirt. We hit it off immediately. He wasn't registered to vote. I pulled out a form and I registered him to vote right then, right there at Starbucks. Then his friend Nathan was there. Nathan was a conservative, unregistered to vote. I pulled out a second form. Then Nathan's girlfriend, Helena. She's a conservative, unregistered to vote. So by sitting at Starbucks with a Stop Hillary t-shirt, I registered 3 millennials in Virginia to vote Republican. Is that easy? Is that easy? Yes. Can every single one of you sit at Starbucks in a piece of Republican iconography? Yes. If anyone's saying no, there's something wrong. Something wrong. Miss Little, we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight, Miss Little. And look, you can have so much fun, there's a gosh darn dog on the table. Next slide. Next slide. So community service, I didn't just come up with Baltimore. I didn't just concoct it. I'm the son of a retired Navy captain. I'm an Eagle Scout. I've lived a life of service. And what we do is we go into majority, minority neighborhoods, decked out in all Republican gear, because we want to show with our actions, not our words, that we care. And so the gentleman in plaid, he wasn't with us. And he comes up and he says, "What the heck are you doing?" And I looked at him and I said, "Sir, I'm an environmental steward who does care about making America clean and green again." And he was so taken aback that he wanted his picture with our group. And I still think about it to this day. He probably went home to his family and he was like, "Honey, there are Trumpers in the neighborhood. And they're picking up trash." So I don't know if he'll vote Republican. I don't know if he'll vote conservatively. But what I do know is I changed a heart and I changed a mind that day because I was kind, I was compassionate, and yes, I was that environmental steward. And so there's Eli, the Puerto Rican American. There's Jocelyn, the mom that I was telling you about. But the woman in the middle, she's very special to me. She's a grandmother, she's in her 70s, she's never been an activist in her entire life, and I really want to paint the picture for you. This woman is tough as nails. She is rough around the edges, she is gruff, she has smoked her whole life! So I was working the corner. She comes up to me. She comes up to me and she goes, "Oh my God! There's another Trumper." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I've been working this corner for a year. Where have you been?" And then what did I say? Wrong. I said to her, "I love you," because she was a 2-time President Obama supporter that flipped for Donald J. Trump. And you guys remember how we're that no judgment movement, right? And you remember how we're that movement based on love, right? There are a lot of Democrats that are disillusioned with their party. They're seeing a party that's supporting Hamas, literal terrorists. They're supporting a party that is putting China first, not America first. They're supporting a party that's pushing our jobs out of our country, hurting unions, hurting the very people who elected them into power. And so this is our opportunity to embrace those Democrats. Let's show them the kindness of our party that they never, ever received with the Democrats. And now I've created a monster. Oh my gosh, this woman, she texts me all the time now. And you know what she does? She paints little rocks that say Trump, and she leaves them at 7-Elevens all over town. It's the cutest thing. She doesn't know that I've adopted her, but I've adopted her as my grandma. Next slide. Next slide. So, this is in Pungo, Virginia. Pungo is at the border of North Carolina on the Eastern Shore, so anybody coming up has to see this. And in 2016, we created a Save America, Never Hillary mural. It was beautiful. It was a piece of artisan craftsmanship. And you see, these 3 military men, they really wanted, oh, I forgot to show you. Guys, look. We built a wall. Do you see it? Those 3 military men, they really wanted their picture taken. I said, of course I'll take your picture. And then what did I say? Wrong. I said to them, thank you for your service. Thank you for defending the red, white, and blue. Thank you for defending Old Glory. Are you single? And then I said, are you registered to vote? Listen, I gotta do what I gotta do. So the media came out. The media came out because you know why? A deranged Democrat decided to vandalize our Save America. How rude and fascist. But a 6'5" long-haired Eagle Scout tipped off the media. Still to this day, I don't know who that brave individual was. And that day, my friends, I wasn't a victim, I was a victor. Last slide. My website is scottpresler.org, and I want to make a couple things to you clear. I don't work for the Republican Party. I don't work for the GOP. I don't work for the Ronna McDaniel. I am 100% independent, organic, grassroots. Nobody puppets me or tells me what to do. And I have another thing to say. I'm coming democratically and peacefully for Adam Kinzinger. I'm coming for Liz Cheney. I'm coming for Lisa Murkowski. I'm coming for every single rival Republican that doesn't put America first. And I hope you'll join me, because we have a historic opportunity in 2022. Now I'm gonna ask you, do you guys want Trump?
Yes.
Do you want Trump to be our nominee in 2024?
Yes.
I promise you, if you work hard, and if you take the House, and if you take the Senate, within days, President Trump will announce that he's running for 2024 to become President of the United States of America. You have the power, and I want you, whenever you have a moment of doubt, or whenever you say, I'm just one person, please think of me, that dog walker that decided to take control of my life, to self-determine, and I wouldn't be here today had I never taken that opportunity. So I want to thank you. Thank you to Miss Jana for starting this process. Thank you to Chairman Dan for being here with us today. And thank each of you for making sure that we have a historic, decisive, overwhelming victory in 2022! I'm done. That's it. Okay, Miss Jana, do I pass this back to you? Oh yeah, and then here's what we're gonna do. Questions and answers, is that okay? Yeah. Okay, so if you have a question, please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
None of this even matters if we don't get voter integrity taken care of. So, you're all over the country, what do you think is gonna happen?
Great question. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. How long has it been since you called your state representative and state senator?
Well, I have him on my cell phone. I can talk to him anytime I want to, so yeah.
So you've called him recently about election integrity? Excellent. So what you can do is, if you are concerned about election integrity here in the state of Texas, is I want you to continue to put pressure on the governor to fulfill his promise of a special session, because he said he's going to make it an emergency that they are pushing forth election integrity as a #1 priority.
Well, they're trying to turn Texas, but what about the state, Arizona?
I'm getting there. I'm starting with Texas because Texas is #1, darling. So, #1, I want you to do that for me. I want you to continue to put pressure. What's the website I taught you? OpenStates.org. You guys have the power, but you guys need to call. I mean it. If you really want it, if in your heart you want this, make it happen! I mean that. You have the power, but we sit at home, we allow the Democrats to take over, and we complain on Facebook and Twitter, and we never do anything. That is why we lose. Do you understand? Real talk with Scott. I'm sorry. I'm that nice guy, but you guys need to hear it. Make it happen. #2, in Wyoming, we passed voter ID law. In Florida, we just passed election integrity reform. In Georgia, we passed election integrity reform. In Arizona, we're working on bills right now. So just know, across the country, we're making progress all over. And it's in part because of those trifecta state governments where people are realizing that we have the power. So in a state like Texas, there's no excuses. And if these representatives of yours, both D and R, are not pushing for election integrity, we need to find someone to step up, primary, repeal, and replace them. But guys, remember, I know some of you are disillusioned from 2020, but in 2016, do you think there were shenanigans? We won! They never thought we were ever gonna win. We overwhelmed the polls. That's what we need to do again. Election judges, overwhelm the polls. Election integrity legislation. But it's an all of the above approach. But I need you guys to take action. You know, I'm one guy, I feel like I'm Patrick Henry, and I'm running through the towns, and I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs, warning people. I need you guys to be those ambassadors to take action for me, please. I really do. I love our country, and I've given everything. And my dad's a retired Navy captain, and my grandfather, rest his soul, was also a retired Navy captain. I haven't served our country, but I feel like I'm serving in my capacity. And so I'm asking each of you, serve in your capacity to save our country, because it isn't about us. This is about the babies. This is about 40 years down the line. This is about the future, quite frankly, of the world. Because if the light goes dark here in America, what hope is there for anybody else? This is it. America is it. Next question.
There's something I really need for you to help me understand.
Uh-oh.
Before the 2020 election, I wanted to have some speakers, and I wanted to get people together, and I wanted to pray over the country. But because a lot of people know that I'm a Republican, when I went to the churches and I asked them if we could do something like this, they'd say, oh, well, we support that, but you can't do it here. You can't do it in our church. We have to make sure that we follow 501c rules. And, you know, I felt like I was totally cut out of all the churches. And that was such a frustrating experience for me. How do you break that?
Can you break it?
Or, yeah.
And in the end, we could vote registration into churches. I don't think you can do
Yeah.
that. I'm not even doing my church.
With permission.
You are absolutely able to register voters in churches. I mean, we're in a church right now, talking politics, right? Listen, not everybody is going to be open to our message, and other people, I hate to say it, are spineless. We don't have everywhere pastors that are actually preaching from the pulpit to the polls. You know, they're neutral, they're whitewashing it, they don't want to get political, and that's a part of the problem. My answer is, if a church tells you no, you go out there and register voters on public sidewalk, which is public property, and you do it anyway, girlfriend. And you just keep asking. I'm serious. You have to treat this like this is a war, proverbial, peacefully and democratically. I have to say that because if CNN is in the room, they'll write a hit piece on me. But in all seriousness, don't let anything stop you. I mean, I've had Republicans on our side attack me and try to stop me from the work that I'm doing, but we just simply can't allow that. Let nothing derail or distract you from your mission. We are here to win. And if you have to start your own religious gathering or group, then we're gonna have Judy's own, you know, Christian gathering or whatever. I'll take one last question from Mr. Barrett. You and I will talk after.
Okay.
I want to hear from this gentleman.
Tim Merville, and I'm the Randall County Chair.
Oh, wonderful.
Judy, one of the things that you can do on that is you say, if you continue to vote Democrat the way you are now, your church will be closed. And when they say, no, it won't, and you say, what happened this last year? Were you able to go openly to church,
No.
sit next to the people that you love, that are in your church, and they got to say no? And so that's one of the things that you can do, because the people that are true dyed-in-the-wool Democrats are anti-family, anti-church, and pro-abortion. And all of those things should be contraindicated by a good Christian church.
Thank you. Do me a favor, if you're in Randall County, please raise your hand. I want you, if you have not taken the opportunity to meet our chairman, please, before you leave today, introduce yourself. And who lives in Potter County? Please raise your hand. If you today have not met Chairman Dan, I want you to can you wave your hand, please? I want you to introduce yourself to our chairman. I think it's great. Can we get a round of applause for having two chairmen here tonight? So with that being said, I'm going to pass it back over to Miss Jana. And I will say, this woman, I was on layover yesterday for 5 hours at the airport, then I was on standby. I didn't get until 12:30. She picked me up from the airport, so just know that this is a woman of character and integrity, that she stayed up all night just to make sure I was taken care of. So can I get a round of applause for Miss Jana?
Thank you all for coming so much, and thank you to Scott. And I hate it when I get emotional, but I do. 2022 is everything to us. If we don't take it back in 2022, I don't think we'll ever get it back. So, please take what Scott talked about tonight. Let's all take it to heart, and let's stand up, and let's fight, and let's save our country and save our children and our grandchildren. And I love you all. This is the greatest community, the greatest state, and I just want to get us back to where we're the greatest country.
Now you're gonna get all us going.
So anyway, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. I hope that we can be together as a family and stand up together and unite and do what needs to be done. We know what needs to be done, but we're going to have to get up and do it. So it's time for the lions to wake up the other lions.
That's right.
That's why you contact the active Republicans or those diehards, so they can get others involved.
But Scott, you talk about a man of character and integrity. This is the man, one of them. So thank you so much.